Now I get curious. So now we are sitting here with the challenge to crack. How do I present use cases in a very pedagogical format? And this is a good tips and tricks for anyone to learn. So what is the tips and tricks? What are you doing? Can we look at it, or can we?
Yeah, it's useCaseLibrary.ai, right? Or what's
I don't know. Is it up right now?
Perhaps I shouldn't say it. Sorry.
I don't know. It might be.
But maybe you can elaborate on how do you what is a good use case?
Yeah, just accept cookies. Talking about the cookie.
Exactly. Cookie law. Who doesn't love that?
Yeah. So I think if you scroll down here.
But just to give at least some people listening, can you give a single example of, what
constitutes a use case, or how is it presented?
Describe the problem in tweet format or former tweet format, 140 characters.
So 140 characters.
Yeah, very, very shortly. What's the problem? What's the opportunity? What could the solution be? Mm-hmm. And what's the data required to make this happen, and what technology? And then read more if you're interested, and point somewhere where they actually.
But I think this is important, because what's the problem? What's the opportunity?
Yeah.
But you also give an understanding of what are the data you would need, and what are the type of algorithms and technology you would need.
Yes.
So your problem, solution, and decomposure of the core ingredients.
Yes.
Lovely.
Here we have, this is maybe not the most sexy use case, but urgency detection for customer complaints. The challenge, angry customers is left unattended or not identified because people have different skills at this. The opportunity is to handle this well in as short as possible terms. And the role of AI here is probably obviously to help mitigate and identify these use cases and help the organization.
So here you have laid it out a little bit like is that it? It's like, or is it like, then you can...
Yeah, and then we've just classified it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here you have like an end use case, retail, text, that's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Missing hinders.
Yes. We want the main purpose, and I think this is important to stick through, is just to have people understand what's the possibility.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one key to AI readiness for organizations, is understanding what are the opportunities for our organization.
Yeah, I think this is one part of what this is good for. But I think also this demystifying, or what is the underlying type of math. So this is text classification. This is, this type of problem.
Yeah. And I think also for us who's worked in many different problems and industries, it's kind of natural to see, okay, I understand this. Oh, then it can be applied somewhere else.
Because now you understand the pattern of the problem. Yeah. If I have this frame, I have something and I know what the result should be.
Yes.
This is this type of problem, is this type of algorithm.
But if you've worked in fashion your entire life and you see, oh, here's an image recognition model for forestry. I don't understand that. I don't work in forestry.
Exactly.
You don't make the connection.
You don't make the connection that the underlying pattern problem is the same mathematical problem.
No.
So who writes these use cases? Is it customers that are coming, just basically leaving some kind of a tweet?
No, currently it's just a working group has put these few up. But we've had a larger group contribute to up until 140. But the idea is to...
Because it would be great if you have, because the challenge and the opportunity there is like the minus... is the 0 and the 10, and in between is actually the hinder, right? So what is hindering you for getting the opportunity, right? So when you identify that, you know exactly where do you need to go.
Yeah.
And that is actually where the magic happens. It's not in the challenge, because the challenge can be a very fluffy one, but if you cannot define the hinder, then you are in trouble, because the challenge is like, I have a challenge, I cannot use this, right? But do you want to use it? Yes, I want to. But do you know how to come to that? What is the specific pain that you have? And that is basically where you get it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great idea. And I think that should be added as soon as we have maybe 20 use cases. Fold down. Okay, I want to do this. What are the steps?
Yeah, but it's even better if you can do it. You don't have to have the hinders yourself. But if your readers can actually put the hinders, that is, or the things that are stopping them from reaching that opportunity, then actually you can collect the knowledge that you need in order to move forward. Because you can identify the challenge and the opportunity, but the hinder is going to come from the person who is actually sitting and working with that.
Yeah, true.
So,
like I said, we also taking this idea.
Sorry.
We're also using the same idea for one of the big Vinnova project that is also AI Sweden is working with, which is the Swedish language model for Swedish authorities project. And we're just trying to basically come up with a use case library for just to work inside that project.
Good.
Yeah.
And also connected to some set of best practices or something.
So here you have the technique, and out of this technique, we can apply this technique.
I would say it is focused on use cases for sure, but it's a bit more technical because it does include, what techniques are used, but it also adds contact information. So the idea is to keep it really short. I think the key point is really what you say to keep it concise, because if you publish a long lengthy report of 200 pages, no one will ever use that. But if you can find a really concise description of this is what we used it for, the use case, this is the techniques we use, these are the challenges when it comes to legal data, code, deployment, and you try to list them. And then, if someone wants to read more, we have a set of links to read more, if there is a blog article somewhere or some demo app or something. But then there is a contact information. If you want to know more, contact these people.
Just so I understand, or also the listeners understand the difference. I think this is super useful. Yeah. But here you have it in the context of the Swedish BERT model.
Yeah, the Swedish language model project.
So you have a Swedish language model project. So we are now evolving AI techniques for the Swedish, and here we are now exploring use case theme. Out of this, you're exploring themes that where you can utilize the Swedish language model.
I think the core idea of a use case library is so profound, and we can see even in a project where we are Batarian RISE, we're the tax authority with the employment agency and the National Library and a number of other big organizations. But even us working together internally in this project, we have a really hard time to get an overview. We have a really hard time to see, they in tax authority did this thing, but what did they really do? Can I find a link to read more about it? Who should I contact to know more about this? To simply do that internally allows us to collaborate a bit more. And imagine, if it's hard for us internally inside this project to have an overview, it will be impossible for someone externally. So then, to think, when this project is finished, how can we really disseminate or communicate this properly? I think this type of use case library metaphor or format is super useful.
I think the format is very, very powerful. Yep. And I think it's also very important to acknowledge that to concretize an example is something that's very, very scary for most people. That's why it's so seldom happens, and why in the beginning of projects we kind of skip that step. We stay one level above it. I think Katarina Gospic speaks about this, because when you go all the way down to explaining exactly what's going to happen, then you become accountable. If you stay one level above that, then you can you don't have to be accountable for it, and we can still explore, and you don't have to be responsible for anything.
You are hitting a raw nerve that I fully agree with here. And I've been in several projects where basically, and I'm being accountable for this problem myself. You don't articulate the problem in such a sharp way so you can actually solve it exactly how it's supposed to be done. And I have several anecdotes on this actually, but I don't want to go in there. But this is profound as well. Yes. That when I give you an example. We have a use case called profitability. Give me a break. We can talk about profitability in relation to anything of in a business process. So you need to be, what's the metric we are trying to fix? And ultimately, those operational metrics, it seems to be quite hard to dig out, as you highlight. But in reality, that's the real use case. That's the real business case. And that tells me something. You understand your problem. Now I can fix it. I don't think you can even really fix an AI problem or a data problem if you're not that precise. No.
And I would go as far as saying, we're the masters. We're probably best in the world at setting goals that are stated as we're going to be the best at something. We're going to be the best in the world at life science or whatever. I would say that's not a goal. It's not even a strategy, because you can always post-construct being best. It's not a measurable goal.
No.